Now, one last thing that I want to touch on, and which is a little bit of a side note, but it sort of ties in, is that any sort of social capabilities creates a lot of data. So when you think about, Twitter or any kind of event stream, we're now tracking things on an event level. We're used to, in business processes, tracking things on an outcomes level rather than an event level. So we only want to know, did this thing complete successfully? Well, that's not enough now to know whether something completed successfully. You want to know, as you're tracking it through the 1,000 different events that happen during that process, if something looks like it's going off track, you want to be able to detect that it's going off track and fix it, so that you don't have some broken outcome at the end. Like the outcome was it failed, well, you should have detected that way back here instead. So one of the things about all of this social stuff is that they generate all of these events, and it really changes the way that we do business analytics now and monitoring. So we need to be able to monitor events on quite a close scale, and we also want to be able to do some predictive analytics so we can determine if something is going off track before it gets into serious trouble, and then take some corrective action about that. So that's one of the things that we do start to see with social media environments, but also BPM, whether it's social or not, has that same sort of characteristics in that it generates a huge number of events, and you want to be able to be monitoring those events and not just the final outcomes of how a particular process worked out. Some of the examples that we see of this in more of a social space, certainly in a public social space, is about sentiment analysis, where you can do an analysis of how people are discussing your company in social environments, whether it's Twitter or Facebook or on blogs or whatever, and provide you with some information if there's something going wrong with your products or services or whatever a problem might be. You'll start to see that mentioned now by people in social media places. So being able to do some sentiment analysis on that. That's about analyzing 1 million different little events, most of which you have to just throw away because it's just some nutcase writing something that they don't really know anything about. But some of them you do actually have to pay attention to. And then trying to figure out whether this should have an impact on how you're doing your business operations, whether you're doing something wrong, you're starting down a wrong path, or so on. So it's about bringing those predictive analytics back in so you can proactively make changes into your business operations and make things better. The last point on here about the next best action, this is quite common as well from a sort of predictive analytics stage. This is where you present a customer, and sometimes this is done on a website, or sometimes this is done by a person who's like a telesales or a customer service rep being scripted by a system, will offer something to a customer that they're very likely to buy based on all the events that have led up to that moment. So the things that they bought before, the behavior on the website, other things that they might have bought, any sort of other events that might have impacted that can lead into this idea of the next best action to take at that particular point in the process. You also get things like predictive pricing and so on different, or dynamic pricing on different websites, where depending on people's behavior, you can change pricing and so on. So this idea that we're now doing analytics at the event level is kind of scary from a, oh my God, there's a lot of data standpoint, but it's really powerful because you can respond to things much more quickly and you can avert problems that might happen before they ever occur. So just to wrap up, I wanted to finish up with some ideas for how you can get ready for social business processes. So we've talked about social. Hopefully you have a little bit of an idea of how social can help with your processes, both internal and external social capabilities. The first thing you have to think about is your customer as part of your process. So if you think back to that slide that I had of linking your external social presence with your internal operational processes, keep that one in mind. That has to be front and center because you can't put your head in the sand with social media. If you're not out there participating in social media, or your business is not out there participating in social media, your customers are doing it for you. You want to be part of that conversation and you want that to link through your operational processes, or you will have unhappy customers. That's guaranteed, because your customers are on social media even if you're not. So definitely think about your customers as part of the process, as being out there, and about linking what they're doing online with what you're doing internally. The next thing is about let your workers do the right thing. This is back to the idea of the knowledge workers. Let them decide what should be done. Give them social tools and collaborative tools so that they can make decisions about how to do things internally rather than scripting and structuring every movement that they make. This will result in certainly greater efficiency because they will probably find better ways to get things done, And in general, it will result in greater customer satisfaction because they'll be doing the right thing for the customer instead of just following a set of rules that may or may not be focused on doing the right thing for the customer. The third thing is looking at what kind of processes you have and finding the ones that are inherently social or would benefit from social. So look at the very unstructured processes that you have. Look at the things where there's lots of exceptions. Look at things where you already have some amount of collaboration or there might be some ad hoc collaboration going on. These are the ones that you want to start using social tools for internally to see how you can better get a handle on those processes, because probably right now they're managed in a fairly ad hoc way, possibly with paper and email and a variety of different tools that might be going around. The spreadsheets over email is always a popular one for things like that. But start getting them into some more social BPM tools that still give people the same level of functionality or even better functionality, but also tracks everything that's going on, because that audit history is important when it comes down to knowing who made decisions about what particular things in a particular business process. And then the last thing is take a look at how you can do some proactive problem detection and problem solving by using some predictive analytics. And that has to be done at the event level. Take a look at the events that are happening in your processes, out in the social world, with what your customers are doing, with what people are doing internally, and put some analysis on that to try and figure out what does a healthy process look like, or a healthy interaction with a customer look like, and what does an unhealthy one look like, so that you can detect those unhealthy ones earlier and fix them up. So you can find me in a number of places online, on my blog, on Twitter, on Facebook, Flickr, Pinterest, and a number of other social media sites, or you can find me at the reception that's happening immediately after here. I look forward to talking to you all, and thank you very much.